Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Korea Defense Veterans Association's continuing series that asks our guests to complete this phrase. From my service in Korea, I learned. I am Colonel Retired Steve Lee, the Senior Vice President of KDVA. Today, we are here to hear from Colonel Retired Norm Spivey about his experiences in Korea and his life afterwards. But before we start, let me give you some background about the series. It's actually pretty cool. In February 2021, the US Army announced its 1 and 2 star assignments. There were 52 generals on that list for reassignment. General Vincent Brooks, the KDVA chairman and president, and former commander of the United Nations Command, CFC, and the USFK, he recognized that several of these senior leaders had served in Korea. So he started to look into their bios, and to his surprise, he found that 25 of them had served in Korea. 25 of the 52 Army 1 and 2 stars on this reassignment list had served in Korea. This really was quite remarkable. So he contacted each of them, and so far we have 12 flag officers who will share their stories. But General Brooks went a step further and he wanted to ask all Korea defense veterans to share their stories. So that is how Colonel Spivey volunteered to join this program. He simply saw our announcement and submitted his short story and then agreed to do this interview. Okay, so Norm, what motivated you to talk about your service in Korea and share it with us?
Well, Steve, first, I'd just say thank you for this opportunity. It's honored to be allowed to just share some thoughts on serving in Korea and what it meant to me. And it was a big part of my military career. And really, that's it. That's the obvious. 24-year military career. I spent 4 years in Korea over three different tours at the lieutenant level, the major level, and then what most folks consider the high water mark of a military career as a battalion commander, 2012 to 2014 at Suwon Air Base. So, 4 years out of a 24-year career, was honored to serve in Korea. There's the other obvious reason I enjoy talking about Korea. I do have an extended family. My wife of 21 years hails from Korea. We have 2 children, and we've got our extended family or in-laws there in Seoul, and are very fortunate to be able to travel back frequently and visit with them. I consider Korea my second home. So those are the kind of, upfront about me, evident answers. But I think second to that is, it's an opportunity to address maybe some of the stigmas about serving in Korea, which I think are a lot less than they used to be. And I just relate, my first tour was 1998. I was serving in the 82nd Airborne, and oftentimes they would send first lieutenants to Korea because there's not a lot of first lieutenants. What some folks say 70 years of 1-year rotations. So one day my battalion commander called me into his office, and the first words out of his mouth were, "I'm sorry." And I got to send you to Korea. That was the rest of the sentence. So that kind of, of course, I saluted and about faced and moved out. But I was probably had some choice words out of earshot. But of course, the rest is history. I went to Korea, fell in love with the mission. Served in the 2nd Infantry Division, and just freedom's frontier, as it was often called then, and maybe still now. I just really enjoyed it, and thankfully that kind of perception, if you will, about serving in Korea, I think it's decreased a lot over the years. But that was my initial, and I saw it, through my other tours with soldiers and coming in to serve in Korea. So anything I could do to share my experiences, all my positive thoughts and experiences about serving in Korea. I appreciate that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, wow, wonderful. I mean, I appreciate all the things you just talked about. 3 years, 3 tours, 4 years, and commanded in Suwon. And And it's a very important part of what you talked about was the stigma. And I mean, I love it. First words out of your battalion commander's mouth in the 82nd. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but we're seeing far less of that now, just because Korea is an assignment of choice. It's great that you still have extended family in Korea. In your written short story from last year, you mentioned that you witnessed firsthand how the values of stability, hard work, loyalty, and respect play a central role in Korean society. So, did your family in Korea influence this statement, or who or how else did you witness this?
Absolutely. We kind of are shaped by our experiences and what we see at home. My extended Korean family and my wife, she shared stories about growing up in Korea in the 70s, and
Mm,
honestly, some of the things in just daily life that I think most of us, that grew up in the States can't really comprehend, and then to look
mm,
where the
mm,
my family has come. All achieved master's degrees, and all have very good jobs. And my brother-in-law
mm,
lives right off the Han River in a nice apartment with his family, and just very successful. And that just came from hard work, diligence,
yeah.
dedication to their family members, and I certainly
Mm,
just respect a lot of that. And that's talking a little bit about maybe the drive and determination that's common, in Korean culture, but also the respect piece. Um, my in-laws, when just the common thing when my father-in-law walks into the room, we all stand up and bow. And when you're having dinner, it's the eldest person at the table always eats first. So sometimes that can get drawn out a little bit. So but those customs and traditions, and certainly my comments are not meant to imply that we've lost that in America or anything. I just think it's a lot more visible and part of Korean culture, and
yeah,
just
yeah.
something to pay attention to. That's at a personal level with the family. Some of the things I've observed. Um, One of the unique things about serving as an air defender on Peninsula, especially as a Patriot air defense unit, uh, we most of our locations were on ROK Air Force bases, Republic of Korea Air Force
Mm,
bases, and to see
mm,
how the ROKAF took care of us, over there, you can't mail it in. Getting communications links and
mm,
some of the challenging terrain and whatnot, it's takes a lot of
mm,
resources, takes a lot of help from not only U.S. Forces Korea, but the ROKAF. So you had these American Army units on Republic of Korea Air Force bases, deploying and setting up, and um, just really got to develop those relationships. And there's always the oops when you're driving around a 90,000 pound Patriot radar. It's stop
mm.
signs and sidewalks sometimes uh, get damaged, but again, just working with uh, the Korean community, and that understanding and that partnership, it just really drove home the importance of the alliance. I was
Okay.
very proud to be a part of that for a few years.
Well, I think it's very important, your experiences, but more importantly, that you're willing to share that. I want to thank you for writing several articles for the KDVA Quarterly Journal, which, oh, by the way, will be coming out next week. Um, we appreciated your thoughts on several topics. So, how did you get interested in writing to share your thoughts about the Alliance, Korea, and our veterans?
Well, I've always enjoyed writing.
Mm,
We do a lot of it in the military, as you know. It's definitely military style, maybe a little bit more upfront. When I retired from the Army in 2019, writing just became a kind of a natural outlet, uh,
okay.
cathartic, therapeutic, if you will, to kind of express
Mm,
my thoughts. even though I might be a type A soldier at heart, I'm probably still a little bit more introverted, and certainly don't understand social media and all the ins and outs of that, like my children do. So uh, starting a blog, and then self-publishing some books,
Mm,
and all of them
mm,
are of the nature of sharing lessons learned, just sharing my experiences, because I have been just very fortunate to have a very fruitful and wonderful experiences personally and professionally. So just sharing that, and hopefully somebody can get something out of it. So on
mhm,
a kind of a personal or selfish level, if you will, it's therapeutic uh, for me
mm,
to write and share my experiences. It's an outlet for me to do that, and resultingly, I think I grow as a writer, which is something I want to do, and just learn to get better at it. Where does the KDVA play into that is one, and I believe in the KDVA mission, and as kind of as I stated, anything I can share about my experiences in Korea and what it means to me, and tell my story, that hopefully a reader would get something from that. KDVA is just a tremendous outlet, and to do that,
mm.
as you mentioned, 25 flag officers out of the I think I believe it was 52. You said, you know,
Yeah,
all those stories and all the service members that have served.
yeah,
We all have those great experiences to share, and KDVA is
yeah.
just by far one of the best outlets I think I've found to do that. So it's selfishly, it's a great way for me to get my therapy to write and express myself, and then hopefully I'm also got a story that's of interest to someone that might maybe help them or at least entertain them for a minute. So,
Well, so clearly we can tell you're pretty thoughtful and humble guy, but everyone has a story
hmm.
and it's of interest. It really is. I truly believe in that. And so that's why I'm so appreciative that you shared your story in the several articles that you wrote for us and what you're doing here for us. You've mentioned, several times that you had a lot of wonderful experiences in Korea. So how did they influence the rest of your military career? And then when you retired in 2019, the life after, what you and I are enjoying now.
It certainly did. Well, kind of going back to some of my opening comments about serving in Korea, and how I got hooked really quick, going from
You know,
a young lieutenant, kind of indoctrinated in the 82nd Airborne, and that's
yeah,
certainly a great place to serve. Loved it. Great place to start. But then I remember my first combined arms live fire in 2ID, and was just amazed at the some of the firepower. But it's really the mission. And again, going back to freedom's frontier, it's one of the last places on earth where you have um, I can't think of a better analogy other than good versus evil, or two major uh,
mhm,
two
yeah,
two major potential potential adversaries there together at odds. So as a soldier, speaking from a former soldier and an officer growing up, I don't think there's any better place to hone high intensity conflict skills, and learn our craft, and especially in my profession, I was in air defense artillery. Um,
mm,
Started out, my first tour there was obviously short range air defense with the Second Infantry Division, but then my other subsequent two tours were with Patriot, an important mission, defending uh,
yeah,
Seoul, one of the most you know uh, um, beautiful cities, amazing cities in the world. And it was our mission to work with the alliance to help defend that from ballistic missile attack. And all you got to do is turn on the TV and know that that's real. The threat to the peninsula and to
yeah,
South Korea. So professionally, there's just none better. And I'd say my whole career. Of course, I also deployed, CENTCOM and other places where you got to again practice, the craft. But again, I think, and I mentioned it earlier, in Korea, it's one thing to get a commo, a communications link in a desert environment where there's no mountains. It's a completely different thing to do it when you have to shoot comms over a hilltop or something like that. So I think it's a great place to learn craft, and fortunately, where it is in my life now, I still work in the missile defense enterprise. First, when I first retired, I did work in industry for a while, and then went back to the government, but still missile defense related, and so the skills I learned, not just in Korea, but throughout my career, still paying dividends today. So that was a two-part question, I think: military career and then life.
Yeah, life. Yeah.
Again, so when my wife and I married, we sort of made a pact to, at least get back to Korea every other year.
Okay.
We went after I retired in 2019, and then obviously COVID hit, so we didn't get to go in 2021 because of the quarantine and some of the travel restrictions and things like that. But we're going back this summer, so
good.
We're very excited about that. My wife and two sons will spend a month over there. I'll catch up with them a little later and spend about 2 weeks. But I'm very excited to see our extended family. And again, it's just my kids, the culture and experiences and the values that they've been raised with. I'm just so very thankful for that. And thankfully they're doing very well in high school, and got one about to head off to college. And I just really think a lot of it's the love and affection that their extended family shown them, and certainly their mothers provided for them as we've gone through life here, and grown as a family.
Wow. Um, Really cool story. Love the way how your experiences in Korea positively and profoundly influenced your military professional career as well as your personal. So thank you for sharing that. Um, so, hey, Norm, this has been really a great conversation. Any closing thoughts, words of wisdom, jokes, anything?
Well, again, I'm very appreciative of this opportunity. KDVA, I believe it's only been around for a few years, and I think 5 years. I just think I've often thought, why did it take this long, to put together an organization? So I appreciate everything you're doing, Steve,
Good point.
and certainly General Brooks, and I think it's awesome, and it came at the right time in my life to KDVA to come about and share stories, and I do enjoy reading the quarterly journals. There's so many good articles in there, and it's I honestly, I think a lot of Americans probably don't understand, what we do, and a lot about the alliance. They hear about it every day. They hear about the threat, and I know especially serving in air defense units, sometimes they can be a magnet for media. I remember seeing CNN out, some of our sites that during certain periods of increased tension. So they see all that, but you really just don't understand all the dynamics at play unless you have an outlet like KDVA to share it. So again, I think it's just a great organization. I hope membership keeps going up, and I certainly have told all my friends and that have served or that might have an interest in the peninsula and things going on about it. And again, just appreciate this opportunity, and thank you, Steve, for all you're doing for Korean veterans.
Well, thank you. It's a passion here at KDVA. And so, we really, really thank you so much, Norm. And, when you say Norm, you can't help but laugh. At least I can, because thinking of Cheers and Norm, the character there. And so you can clearly see the great cheer in your face. And thank you so much for participating. And so, ladies and gentlemen, really thank you for joining us to learn more about one of our members, Norm Spivey. I think we got a better sense of what serving in Korea can mean for Americans and life after their assignment there. Please look out for other interviews in the series. And if you'd like to share your written stories, please send 1 to 2 paragraphs to kdva.myserviceinkorea@gmail.com. We'll look through it. We'll publish it. And then if you'd like to do an interview, let's have a conversation about doing that, just like Norm has done. So again, it's kdva.myserviceinkorea@gmail.com. In 2022, KDVA's theme is "We Are the Alliance," because we believe that the people who built the alliance and continue to serve it are the alliance. So please join KDVA to add your voice and support for one of the most important and greatest alliances in the world, the ROK-US Alliance. As part of this emphasis on KDVA members, KDVA will soon announce our Korea Revisit program and the first KDVA reunion in the United States. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you. And KDVA looks forward to working together for the ROK Alliance. Stop. Okay, are you sure you want to stop recording?